Welcome to an alphabet of fairy and the letter W. In this snippet of folklore, we will look at the White Ladies, the Will O'the Wisp, and Wirry Cow. The White Ladies are female ghost-like figures, although they are also white ladies associated with waterfalls, the falling water blending with the vision of these spirits of place. These are found dressed all in ethereal white, often associated with local folklore tales of tragedies, and they are found all over the world, both good and bad, and indifferent spirit creatures. One common theme of these ladies is a backstory of an accidental or tragic death, or of taking one's own life, a murder, betrayal by a loved one or loss of a loved one, and also unrequited love and longing. Another strange commonality between white ladies is the amount of them that cannot rest until treasure is found or a secret uncovered. At the Beeford Strait, a piece of road found in East Yorkshire in England, motorists have witnessed a female figure, all dressed in white, running frantically across the road, or a female white-clothed hitchhiker. This white lady vanishes during the journey by car or motorbike, causing shock, of course, sometimes crashing the vehicle, and her sighting has become known as the White Lady's Curse. At Bury Pomeroy Castle near Totnes in Devon in England, a white lady is found there too, Matilda or Margaret. She was one of two daughters of the castle. Her jealous sister had her locked in the dungeon there, eventually starving and wasting away. Now she is cited even to this very day as a white lady, walking around St. Margaret's Tower of the castle. The White Lady of Radford is one of the Harris family ladies. She fell in love with a young man from Austin close by where she lived. Her family forbade the meeting and the relationship. One night she stole a boat, and all dressed in glowing white she drifted into the middle of the lake. The boat capsized, taking the girl with it. Many have seen her vision, sat by the water of the lake, and so often was this an occurrence, a nearby road was even named White Lady Road. And now to the other aspect of white ladies, those who were once deities, now folklore nature spirits who are found by the water. Where the rivers Dove and Hodge meet in Yorkshire in England, a white lady of the waters can be found. She can be seen at Halloween, her golden hair flowing like water, dressed all in shining white and her arm draped around a snow-white doe. Ruth Tongue, often disparaged but sometimes unfairly so I think, collected this tale of the White Lady of St. Julian's Well in Somerset. She who haunts St. Julian's Well, now in a cottage garden, she played the part of a banshee to the lords of Hungerford, but she seems to have been a well spirit rather than a ghost. The Lady of Orchardley is another white lady who is rather a fairy than a ghost, but the most fairy-like of the three is the White Rider of Corfe, who gallops along the road on a white horse, turns clean aside by a field gate, and into the middle of a meadow where she vanishes. I was told about her by some old-age pensioners in the Blackdown Hills in 1946. One of them said, "She shone like a dewdrop," and another of them, "'Twas like little bells all a-chime." In Wales, that wonderful Celtic country that helps make up the 4 countries of the United Kingdom, the White Lady, Lady Wen, is common Celtic folklore character. She appears at Samhain or Halloween, warning children to stop being naughty, and she may ask for help if you acknowledge her and speak to her. At Ogmore in Bridgend, another Celtic archetypal white lady holds her court. It is here she wanders, waiting for an unsuspecting man to come to her and speak. At this point she would lead him to a place filled with hidden treasure, under a stone found in Ogmore Castle Tower. She allowed the man to take half the treasure and half only. However, the greedy fool decided that this was not enough, and later that night he went back to the castle and stole the rest of the white lady's treasure. Now she appeared to him, enraged, fingers turning to claws, attacking the man all his way home. In a very short time the man became gravely ill, and nearing his death he asked for confession. On confessing his crime against the white lady, the man passed away. Will O'the Wisp is a creature found in the marshlands, graveyards and bogs all over the world. A little creature who traditionally carries a lamp holding the flame that is all we see of the Will O'the Wisp. He is also known as jack-o'-lantern, hinky-punk, friar's lantern, also spook lights and wandering lights, among many other names. Folklorist Catherine Briggs tells of one tale of Will Smith, a wicked blacksmith who is given a second chance by St. Peter, keeper of the pearly gates of heaven, after the man has passed away. However, arrogant Will takes no heed of this chance and carries on with his despicable behaviour. The devil has also been watching this and gives Will a piece of glowing coal to warm himself, and with this he lures away unwary wanderers into the marshes and into their doom. In Ireland there is the tale of Drunk Jack, or Stingy Jack, who dies and the devil arrives to collect his due, which is Jack's very own soul. Jack tricks the devil into turning him into a coin so he can buy one last drink. The devil does this, and Jack places the devil coin in his pocket right next to a crucifix. The devil is then trapped inside the coin. And so a deal is struck. The devil will give old Jack 10 more years of life, and on passing the devil will collect Jack's soul. Once again canny old Jack tricks the devil. He tricks the devil into climbing a tree, and upon seeing the devil high in the branches, Jack carves a cross on the tree trunk. Once again the devil is trapped. Once again another deal is struck. Jack will remove the cross and the devil will erase all of Jack's debt. Now, because Jack had been utterly awful in life, there was no way he was going to be allowed into heaven. And so Jack travelled from the pearly gates to the gates of hell to ask if his soul could stay there. But the devil has obviously had enough of Jack and says, no. However, he will give Jack an ember from his fire, and Jack can spend eternity wandering the twilight space between heaven and hell, where lost souls are sent. Jack finds a turnip, carves out the inside and puts the ember there, and begins his wandering through all of the marshy and boggy places that no human dares to tread. In Wales it is the pucker who holds the fairy fire in his hand, a mischief maker. He leads travellers off the path in the dark night, and when the traveller follows the light into the places of bogs and marshes, the wicked pucker blows out the light, and the wandering person is lost forever. Wirt Sykes tells a Welsh tale of another aspect of the Will O'the Wisp, that of the corpse light. A labouring man was travelling home as night was beginning to fall. Just ahead of him he could make out a little light travelling at the same pace as himself. Peering closer he could just about see a small figure holding the light, and it was holding a tiny lantern. He followed that little figure and light for miles, almost entranced. Suddenly, he came to his senses. Horrified, he looked down to see a chasm at his feet and a roaring river below. He had come so close to his own death. The pucker and the light now leapt the chasm, and all the man heard over the roar of the water was sinister laughing. And then the light was gone. The man was left in pitch blackness, miles from home, and not knowing which way to step to safety. In the Scottish Highlands, this folklore creature was known as the spunky, looking like what was known as a link boy, a young child who would be paid a little money to walk alongside travellers carrying a flaming torch. Also in Scotland we find folklore that tells a belief that these lights are omens of death, as they would appear on the roads and pathways that funeral processions would follow. The Wirry Cow is another Scottish fairy creature, a frightening thing like a goblin, a ghost, a ghoul, a bugbear, or maybe even the devil himself. However, scarecrows are also nicknamed Wirry Cows by some folk. The origin of the name is interesting, wirry coming from the Old Scottish for harassment or worry, and cow from the word cow with an E, which was a type of goblin or a creature that brings fear. Wirry is a word used quite often in folklore, such as wirryboggle, meaning roguish or a rascally fellow. Wirry Cow is someone who is bad-tempered, and the strange wirry hen, that is someone who is a total ruffian. And so what of the Wirry Cow? Well, this is a terrifying Scottish cow creature, wicked fairy animals that look too long, misshapen and just plain not right. These strange bovine creatures that like to play wicked tricks on people are found in marshlands and swampy areas where their fur gathers algae from the stinking waters and moss from the earth. Thank you, subscribers and supporters, for all your kind words, views, likes and follows. Some people have asked me how they can support the channel. Well, there are a few ways now. You can look at our merchandise shops where we have all sorts of great things with mine and Mark's art. And now you can even buy me a coffee on Ko-fi, where you can also join as a member of my page and get great principles of Mark's art and folklore things every month as a thank you from us both. I have put all of the links in the description of this episode. Thank you for joining me on the latest episode of The Alphabet. I hope you join me again as we near the end of our adventure. In the meantime, dear friends, take care, brightest of blessings, and remember, don't play with the fairy folk, or you may end up in one of my folk tales yourself.